Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show for Live Music Friday, we'll meet Keenan Osme, clarinetist, composer, Silk Road Ensemble member, and more, who'll bring his own ensemble to Antenna Cloud Farm tomorrow night.
But first, it's a pretty big anniversary for anyone with ties to the Crescent City.
It's the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina making landfall in New Orleans, which caused an estimated $125 billion in damages from its over 100-mile-per-hour winds and average of 10 inches of rainfall.
The levees broke and lives were lost and displaced from the city to wherever shelter was.
And for one sign maker, that shelter was Ashfield, Massachusetts.
Today is the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina making landfall in the great city of New Orleans. Now, we are the Fabulous 413, and we always talk about things that are Western Mass based. And Western Mass is not New Orleans, but there is an awful New Orleans flavor, and by awful, I mean awfully good. A wicked good New Orleans flavor that we have to thank Hurricane Katrina for. If there can be a silver lining to that actual dark cloud that hit New Orleans, the silver lining for us is where we are right now, which is Elmer's in Ashfield. What's your name?
Nan Parati.
Nan, you are famous for your handwriting, which we will get to in a little bit. But you are a Katrina refugee, quite literally, to the 413. Can you tell us your recollection of what happened 20 years ago when Katrina hit your town of New Orleans?
Do I get to cry?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try not to. I just happened to be here at that time because Jim Olson of the Green River Festival had invited me to come up and do the Green River Festival. And I said, where's Greenfield? And I looked it up and I said, oh, is that near Ashfield? And he said, yeah. And I said, I have a friend in Ashfield. That'll be cool. I'll come work the Green River Festival in June. No, it was July at that time. And I'll stay with my friend. This is cool. This is great. So without knowing anything in the world except that, this is an important part of the story. A year before this happened, somebody broke into my house in New Orleans, not uncommon, and stole my bicycle, stole a bunch of money, stole a bunch of stuff I cared about. And so a year later, when I'm packing to come up here, I think, let me take some things with me that I care about. I took a quilt that my great-grandmother had made for me. I took things my dad had given me, stuff that you would not think I'm just going to go for a 2-week job.
Yeah.
But I brought it with me because I thought, I don't want anybody breaking in my house and taking anything. So that was the first part of the miracle.
You had the worst burglar.
Right, exactly, right.
Cat burglar.
Right.
Katrina.
Very good. So I came up here thinking I'm going to be here for a couple of weeks. I'm staying with my friend in Ashfield. And at that time, I was working all the time. I still work all the time, but I was working all the time in production, doing festivals. I was touring with Jimmy Buffett shortly before that. I was doing all kinds of stuff where everything was, make it happen now. I don't care how much it costs. Spend the money. Send out the runner. 2 o'clock in the morning, you need an aardvark. Go out. You'll find it. Bring it back. Make it happen. And then at the end of every event, throw it all away. At the time, I was really feeling like, wow, life, I'm not touching life. I kept thinking, I'm not touching life. I'm just doing it. What does this mean? What is the meaning of life? I was really looking at, really and truly, what is the meaning of life? So I get to this tiny town of 1,700 people in Massachusetts, and I'm looking around where people grow their own food. All of those things were speaking to me so much. And I was walking around between working on the festival and loving the festival, too. That was so cool compared to all the other big-ass festivals I was working on. Can you say big-ass on the radio?
Yes, you can.
Good.
Welcome to the new public radio.
Thank you. So all of that was really important to me, making such an impression on me. And then, right around the corner from where I was staying was this little tiny empty store called Elmer's. It had been empty for a few years. It just kept calling me, and I kept walking up on the porch and looking in. I'd never done anything like owning a store. I mean, I'd always been in design and build, but I kept thinking community, 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 and I kept really enjoying the people I was meeting, even though they did not like me, because I wasn't from here. I was from away. And also, there was a rumor going around that I was really wealthy, which wasn't true, but because I was from away.
The only people that come here from away are
Must be
people
well.
who buy houses and stay on the hill and don't interact with the locals.
Exactly right. But I kept looking at it and thinking more and more and more. I ended up staying a lot longer. After the festival was done, I kept thinking, wow, isn't this a cool town? Isn't this a cool town? Wouldn't it be cool if, and I actually said this out loud, if for some reason I couldn't go back to New Orleans right away? So God heard that, sent out the runner.
Brought an aardvark.
Brought a big-ass hurricane. Actually, the morning I was packing up to leave, I finally said, forget it. I'm just going to go. So I packed up to leave. I was driving to New Orleans. I called a friend of mine when I got around Hartford, and she said, oh, we've got a big hurricane this weekend. You might want to stay a few days before you come back. So I said, all right. So I turned around and came back. But we had so many hurricane scares that year. Nobody. That's why it killed so many people, truly. And it wasn't the hurricane itself. It was the levees breaking that really did it.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, great. I'll go back for a couple more days. It'll be really fun. And the very next day, a friend of mine called me, woke me up and said, oh my God, have you seen what happened in New Orleans? And I said, what are you talking about? I didn't know at all. And she told me, and I had to look all around town to find anybody with a television. Nobody had TVs here even. I finally found someone, and I just sat on her couch and just watched the devastation and the destruction of every single thing that I knew in my world. I even saw my house. I literally saw my house. I had 8 feet of water.
Wow.
Yeah, everything I knew in the world was gone. But it was so interesting because I had all my most prized possessions with me. So then, of course, the guilt set in.
Like you caused Katrina because you wished
I know,
for
don't tell
a reason
anybody.
for you to not go back to New Orleans.
Exactly, right.
We won't tell anybody, except this is the second time that you've mentioned that it's your fault on our radio show.
But that is really and truly how I got here. There was no going back at that point. And my house was still there, but 8 feet of water for many, many, many days doesn't do a house any good at all. There was black mold from the floor to the ceilings. Everything was covered in black mold.
What was the rest of your neighborhood like when you went back?
Literal devastation. It was just, like I said, 8 feet of water all through the neighborhood. And just can't believe it. And then finding my friends and finding who didn't make it, finding all of those, living through all of that, just, was horrible.
We're speaking with Nan Parati at Elmer's in Ashfield. It's the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, which made you resident here of the 413 because you couldn't go back to your home in New Orleans. As we mentioned, you have the most famous handwriting in Western Massachusetts, maybe the most famous handwriting in America, as you are the artistic director, still, I believe, or involved with the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. You went back there to do that this year.
Yes.
And you do these hand-drawn signs. If you go to the Green River Festival, you see those hand-drawn signs. If you come to
Springfield Jazz Fest also has those signs.
If you come to where our desks are at any PM, we have all the signs that you've made for us.
We didn't throw away the signs. I just wanted you to know.
All sorts of different festivals. Your handwriting has become iconic. But talk about the decision to build this community space, Elmer's, after you are displaced from your own community in New Orleans.
And why didn't you make it a sign shop? Because that's what you do.
Yeah, I know. You decided to make it a breakfast place.
Interestingly, I've been doing the sign since 1985 at Jazz Fest in New Orleans, but it didn't really blow up until COVID. COVID, when nobody had any festivals to go to. I mean, I'd be making them for different festivals all over the country. I now do lots and lots and lots of festivals.
What other ones that we didn't mention?
These are the ones I go to, but then I also ship them to a lot of festivals. I do Saratoga Jazz Festival in Saratoga, New York, and then after that I go to Springfield Jazz and Roots. I do then Newport Jazz, Newport Folk. The next one I have coming up is Montclair Jazz Festival.
Yeah, but it was COVID that really changed that?
Because everybody really, I mean, I was already doing festivals. I sold Elmer's in 2018, and so then the festivals really picked up. But during COVID, everybody wanted something that reminded them of their festivals, and one of the signs I make for so many people is, "Fest season is the best season." Mm-hmm. And so people just, from all over the world, I mean, I'm not just famous here. Australia! People order them from Australia twice now.
Do you have to do those signs upside down?
But also, I also have to not have to, but I enjoy making them in other languages as well, like from French. People want them in French.
But talk about creating this community space of Elmer's.
Of Elmer's, right. So that is actually something too. All of a sudden, everything I know is gone. The world is upside down, literally almost. And what am
in Australia.
Just like,
oh my goodness.
What am I going to do with my life? What am I going to do? And this thing which had been calling me, it was what I had to do. I don't know anything in the world, but I just want community so badly. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to make this happen. Now, talk about people saying, "Oh, you're not from here, and we have no interest in anything you're doing because you're not Elmer." And I mean, everybody, and I recognize it. I understand it now. At the time, I just thought, okay, but I'm going to be nice. But I just wanted to do it. When I started talking about things I wanted to do, people were really and truly moved away on the bench, folded their arms, didn't look at me. And so then I put a survey in the Ashfield News and I said, "What do you guys want this to be?" And everybody said, not everybody, but most people said a breakfast restaurant. They wrote back and said a breakfast restaurant. I don't cook at all. I never worked in a restaurant. I don't know nothing about that, but I do know how to make things happen. I figure all I gotta do is find me a good cook and we're going to make it happen. And plus, like I said, I needed desperately something to pull me into. It's interesting, at those times, I was having these nightmares every single night of being in a swamp, drowning in a swamp, and there was one tree in the swamp, and I kept swimming and swimming to this tree, holding on to the roots, and recognizing by day that was Elmer's. Elmer's was the tree that was going to keep me alive. Otherwise, I was going to drown in the swamp.
Elmer's was the glue
Elmer's
that held it all together.
Dang, I wish I thought of that.
Feel free to steal it. You're going to tell this story a lot more than I am. So in the next incarnation, you can use that.
Thank you. There's a lot of miracles in this story. Another part of this miracle is, who would have thought, I was thinking about this the other day, because of course 20 years later, I am so grateful, and I'm not talking about anything else that happened to anybody else, but my own tiny little life. I am so grateful that I ended up here. I love Ashfield so much. And people like me now too.
You're finally almost one of them.
It only took 2 decades.
Exactly. Actually, it took
Pretty fast for the hill town.
I know it.
Fast from New England.
Right. But I love Ashfield so much. I love the people here. I love this restaurant so much. I love everything about it. I look at my life now. If I were still in New Orleans, I'd be frustrated. And I do go. I'm still there 5 months out of the year. But it's not the place it used to be at all. And so I love this place so much now. And I don't love New Orleans the way I used to love it. And as people leave, the people who come in, even though they have the intellectual knowledge of what happened, they don't have the emotional knowledge, so they're not building up necessarily the same way that maybe the same people would have had they stayed.
More with Nan Parati, once of New Orleans, now of Ashfield, Mass., as we learn more about her experience with Elmer's, including how it made its current transition and how she views the hurricanes that have wreaked destruction on U.S. soil since then.
After which, we'll hear a silk road of sounds with a distinctly Syrian bent with clarinetist and composer Kenan Azmeh.
You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, specializing in solar installations, battery storage, and clean energy solutions tailored to the homes and businesses of Western Massachusetts. Northeast-solar.com.
We are looking back on the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina and the devastation it wrought in New Orleans, but how Western Mass was the beneficiary of a Katrina refugee, and Nan Parati, who brought Elmer's, which was a historic building in Ashfield. There was a real Elmer who was here,
absolutely.
And brought this community space back online shortly after Katrina hit. Then you decided to walk away from Elmer's, and the community felt a little bit of a void, but Elmer's is back in action again.
It's true, and I do want to say it was also a very, very interesting thing. One of them little miracles again. At the time I sold it, I really didn't want to sell it. I was not planning to sell it at all. I loved Elmer's so much, but my dad was very, very, very sick. He passed away in 2017, and while I was taking care of him and running this place and doing the festivals, everything else I was doing, I used to have a whole lot of energy.
Do you not anymore?
It seems like you maybe do.
We have not yet been drinking coffee, and so if you're listening to Nan,
I only recently discovered coffee, by the way.
Wait a minute, you lived in New Orleans for how long?
Yeah,
You didn't drink coffee?
25 years.
Yeah.
They have their own coffee.
Chicory, yeah.
I know, but I just never, it was always too bitter, but if you put a whole bunch of chocolate in it, it's really good.
Yeah.
But anyway, at the time when I was taking care of my dad and doing all this stuff, some people came and they really, really wanted to buy it. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to sell it, And I have a friend who used to teach business at Tulane University. He was also the chairman of the board of Whole Foods Market for many years too. He knows some stuff about business. So I went to him and I said, okay, these people keep coming back. What do I want to do? And he said, the rule is, if you own a restaurant and somebody wants to buy it, you sell it right then, because you never know when somebody else is going to want it. You may never be able to do it again. Sell it. So he told me to, and everything John Elstrott told me to do, I did. So I sold it to them, even though I really didn't want to. However, just a couple years after that was COVID. Of course, I think I could have made it work, but maybe not. So I was actually very, very, very lucky. I didn't really make any money off of Elmer's because
it's a restaurant.
It was a restaurant, and I always felt like, well, I want to make sure everybody can afford to eat here. And so I wouldn't even look at how much does something cost? Let's just do that as opposed to what. But I had a great time. So it was an expensive amount of fun, but it was great, great, great fun. And the day that I sold it, I was up at Neighbors. And one of the
Which
guys,
is the convenience store out the street.
Exactly, where all the guys and they're all named Doug or Wayne. So the Doug and the Waynes meet there every morning.
Sounds like the McCoys and the Hatfield. They go out to the parking lot and they fight.
Or it sounds like Letterkenny.
Your friend had a clear win in a scrap with a skid the other night, but he put on chapstick right after, which makes it a draw, really.
Like West Side Story.
Yeah.
When you're a Wayne, you're a Wayne all the way.
Well, the Dougs and the Waynes really like each other a lot. They were up there all hanging out, talking. They're all older and talk about, and they, they'll say, well, okay, now back on the corner of Smith Road there. Okay, you remember the house that used to be there? Okay, that one's not there anymore. I mean, they just talk about the old days, which I now understand so much. But the day I sold Elmer's, I went to neighbors, and one of the Dougs or the Waynes said, hey, come over here. And I said, me? You don't ever talk to me, because they would never come in here. You never talk to me. You really want to talk to me? And he said, you tried. You tried. You came here. You had an idea, and you really tried, and it turned out you were a good person. So you're one of us now.
Wow.
So
Are you
really-
a Doug or a Wayne?
That's a really good question. Dang, I don't know the answer. I have to think on that. But yeah, so 13 years is all it took for me to get accepted. Thank you very much. But I did. The people who I sold it to, they ended up needing to sell it. And a group got together here in Ashfield and formed a board recognizing the building, and interestingly, most of them aren't even from Ashfield, but recognized the significance of the building. So they formed a board and a nonprofit and bought the building and formed a land trust, putting it into perpetuity so it cannot be torn down. It will always be Elmer's, which is just thrilling. Because they're a nonprofit, they were able to get this giant grant to put all this work into the building, which I never could have afforded yet. Another miracle. I couldn't have afforded all that they were able to do. And the building really needed it bad. And then they said, okay, we've got this building, we're gonna fix it up. What are we gonna do with it now?
And the town said, we want another breakfast place.
They said we want another Elmer's is what they said. Anybody who's ever been the person who did something before and is joining especially a group of people, there's always going to be all kinds of weird stuff because, well, here's the way it's supposed to be. I became one of those people, but back in my day, this is how we did it.
Just like a Wayne would say.
Exactly. I had to change my accent and everything. It was so hard. And the board was not, they were like, okay, yeah, 10-4, got that, boomer, kind of thing. They're all much younger than me, too. Yeah. One day, one of them said, I just wish you would run it again, because people keep saying they want Elmer's. I just wish you would do it. And I think I burst out in tears, because I wanted to so badly to own it and run it again. But I felt I wasn't, I wasn't really sure what everything was. But at the same time, I had all those festivals that I now do, so I couldn't be here all the time. So I needed a partner, and I kept coming up with different partners, and things almost worked, and then they didn't. Almost worked, and then they didn't. And then one day, I was in here, and this woman named Allison, a young woman named Allison, walked in, and she said, somebody was telling me about this place, and I'm a baker, and I've always been interested in maybe owning a cafe. And I could see her looking up and looking around, and I was like, that was me back in the day. And so we started talking, and came up with a plan. And there was no way in the world anybody was going to talk me out of this, because I knew she was it. I knew we could do this together. We were going to do it. Unfortunately, I had to go in about 3 weeks to New Orleans, so we didn't really have time to even really get to know each other at all. It was just, we're going to do this. We're partnering up. We're starting an LLP, a partnership. We're doing it. Okay, great. Cool.
Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. See ya. And then I was so freaking busy with Jazz Fest. She was like, hey, what about this? I'll get to it. And she was getting a little annoyed with me.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her at all. I was away for 5 months, and she and her fiancé, Luke, were doing this together, and they built up something that I wasn't really part of, but they were doing it. They were doing it the way they wanted to do it. And it's also, this many years down the road, they're much younger, they're in their 30s, so they had a different vision of how the world works, which works with the world now. My vision has to do with people who are either dead or very old. And if you want to bring in the young people who are going to really be able to support it, you've got to have that vision too. And they were able to do that.
Now that we know a bit of the history of Nan Parati and Elmer's from both above and below the Mason-Dixon line,
It's time to hear more about the present of Elmer's from the baker driving the Wicked Good Cafe, which is now bringing those pancakes and more to Ashfield in that space with Allison Nottingham.
after which we'll hear from an artist for Live Music Friday that you can catch with his band in Gill at Antenna Cloud Farm tomorrow night, Kenan Azme.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Back in the day, we used to write everything down. We had waitresses, and we just wrote it all down. Well, they had like POS system. I do you make a POS system? I don't know how that works. So I was going home frustrated and exhausted every day, feeling like I don't really want to do this again. It's a different world. The world I was in is a different world. I mean, we had a lot of, we'd fight. It was great. People told Allison, you know, when Nan gets back, she's going to change you back. See, all of a sudden, I was the good guy again.
You were the townie.
I was Elmer. And so she was worried about that, me coming back and going, oh, you need to have this, or you need to do it this way.
Elmer Fudd.
Exactly.
Kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit.
We would get into it. We would really get into it. But over time, what we did was we finally I realized it's not the way it was. I don't have the stamina, the energy, whatever. You're actually doing a great job, and you should do it really the way you want to. So she and then her fiance Luke, and then Luke's best friend is a chef. So he came in and he started working. So the three of them are such a tight squad of people doing this, having a really great time. But without me pulling him in, it wouldn't have happened. But now I step back and I bow to them and I say, you guys do it. And they're doing a great job. And so there are so many freaking miracles that happened because of Katrina in my own personal life, again, just my own personal life, that are just amazing to me.
Are the pancakes still good?
Yes, the pancakes are still outstanding. It's still Gray's recipe, Gray's Sugar House, still their recipe, and their syrup, too.
We better try it.
You got to, because that's what you used to do back in the day when you would come in.
That's right.
Yeah, you always had pancakes.
You'd make my now 12-year-old, who was probably, let's
Four?
see, maybe between 2 and 4, sing for supper.
Yes, he would sing Hamilton. And may I say what your 2-year-old would say?
Oh, yes.
How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore...
How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore, and Scotsman, drop in the middle of Scott and Scotland, Ribby, Squad, grew up to be here in the sky.
I mean, I'm like, how old are you? But he would always come up to me and sing the entire first song of Hamilton to me.
Because you made him.
I made him. Oh, it was so
What's your
funny.
name, kid?
Very good. That was great. Yo, your whole family was so great.
We love it here. We used to come and do like a mini vacation. We'd come to start at Elmer's, go to Chapel Falls, and have a great summer staycation here. And many notable folks that are much more famous than me were regulars here for a long time.
Ray.
Are we mentioning him by name?
No.
Okay. Ray LaMontagne.
Yes, he used to come here all the time. I always love to brag that we got into the New York Times, the Boston Globe, Yankee Magazine, and even Rolling Stone. It helps a whole lot when Ray LaMontagne is here to get into Rolling Stone.
I want to say they used to bring piles of black people here to make people uncomfortable.
That's good.
Well, for black brunch, like there was a period of time right before COVID where like the black community, of which I find myself a part, that I am a part of in a very specific way, was trying to find more ways to just like kind of connect out in the community. And black brunch was a movement, basically like get your friends together, go to a brunch space, get a big table, and just be out in public.
Oh, cool! I love that.
I'm kind of taking the sit-in mentality to it without active protest.
Yeah.
And we were like, we can do that here. Where will we go? Let's go to Elmer's.
Wow. That was after I owned it. Dang, I wish y'all had been here when I was here. I would have loved that so much.
I mean, we're really lucky. We are the beneficiaries of a very terrible event that happened 20 years ago to a city that is incredible, and I've been lucky enough to visit post-Katrina, but is still...
And I'm not talking smack about New Orleans now. I'm just saying, ain't like it used to be.
Okay, Wayne.
I was like, wow, you are a Wayne.
I know, I am. The older I get, the more I get. I'm even that way about Ashfield now. I am. Isn't that funny? So this is Allison Nottingham. And Allison is now the owner of Wicked Good Cafe. That was another thing. We had to change the name. Also, Allison kind of wanted to not try to do the, it's not Elmer's, you know. But the building is now Elmer's. And so she came up with the very New England name of Wicked Good Cafe, which it is wickedly good. Wicked good.
Wicked good.
Wicked
I almost I was
Wicked
going to correct you.
Yeah, I'm still from the South.
Allison, where are you from?
I grew up in Connecticut and was living in New Hampshire when I met my then boyfriend, now fiance, and that's how he owned a house here, so that's how I ended up in Ashfield.
Tell us about what your vision is for this Wicked Good Cafe, apart from the Wicked Good name.
It's wicked good food. That's the most important. But my experience comes as a baker, and so I worked really hard on my bagel recipe, worked really hard on my bread recipes, and really wanted to make those shine a little bit. And so that's why I went with a cafe versus a full service restaurant. It allowed for the bakery to shine. And then throughout the process, when I first got in here, I created the Kind Bun.
Kind Bud?
Kind Bun.
Oh yeah, so we're not talking about marijuana.
No. But that's part of the name was my fiance was like, well, we could be friendly to the stoners as well.
So we got a pistachio one. Tell us about it.
One person referred to this as an unusual muffin. It is a focaccia that I layered the pistachio flavorings into. There's actually chopped pistachios in there, as well as some powder that you would make a muffin with. And it's sweet and delicious. And I hope you like it.
Yeah, this is great.
This is great.
Thank you.
I was curious what the dough was because I'm looking at it and it's clearly not a muffin, but it's not quite kouign-amann.
Or a croissant.
Or a croissant,
Right,
yeah.
yep.
It's clearly not a laminated dough, it's something in between.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
This is really cool.
Thank you. Focaccia's always been my favorite. I wanted to play around with something, and I just had a vision of this. It's made in those large muffin pans. And I had a vision of this one day, and I started with the cinnamon sugar flavor, and it went from there.
I'm talking with my mouth full at Wicked Good Cafe in the building known as Elmer's in Ashfield. And Nan, who brought Elmer's back to its prominence as a community hub years ago, talked about being accepted by this community and how it took over 2 decades to be accepted. How have you been accepted so far? Do the people down at the neighbor's convenience store talk to you yet?
You know, I think people were so excited to have something back in here that they've all been really, really generous and kind to me.
It's because of the kind bun.
It's because of the kind bun.
You are what you eat.
I always say lead with kindness. You don't have to continue, but we at least start there.
I love that as a mantra.
And that's actually my fiance named them kind buns because I always say lead with kindness.
Yeah.
You don't have to continue, but we start there. And people have just been so supportive. They're so happy to be back in the space that I think it's just been really kind.
You made a lot of changes, but you've also kept the pancake recipe, which
Yes.
people loved the pancakes.
I think people would riot.
Is that why?
Yeah, there was a few things that Nan really put her foot down on when we first started talking about this idea. One was using Yup coffee.
Mm-hmm. Back in the day, I had a waitress working here named Liza, and she was just a great waitress. She was fun. I really liked her a lot. And one day this guy came in named Matt, and I didn't know him, but he sat down and he had breakfast, and Liza waited on him. They kind of started talking while she was waiting on him, and then they started talking some more, and then they started going out. They ended up getting married, and they decided Matt really wanted to start his own coffee business. And they also knew that I was a graphic designer and stuff. And when they started this coffee company, they were just trying to figure out what's a good name for it. So they were here one day and they asked me what I thought about names, and I said, the number one word with coffee is yup. You want some coffee? Yup. You want more coffee? Yup. You want some sugar with that and cream? Yup. And especially in New England, it's just such a New England word, yup. So I named the coffee Yup. Yup had so much to do with this building, with this business, with this company, with everything. And Yup coffee, like I said, I have only recently discovered coffee, but people really like it, and I like it, and I love Matt and Liza. So I was saying, yeah, you guys really should use Yup coffee. And so I made that introduction, and then they ended up making a wicked good roast, so that we now have our own roast of coffee, which I think just brings that whole, little miracle there, full back around.
And it's a really nice blend too. Like, it has countries that I usually drink from, including Ethiopia and Bali and either Costa Rica or Mexico. So it's really balanced. Got a little bit of chocolate in there, a little bit of coffee, a little bit of citrus, and it's just a good breakfast blend.
Yeah, we love coffee.
What other local things have you brought in since?
So we're using Porter Family Farm meats, their bacon and sausage. We're using Side Hill Farm yogurt, all local in Ashfield.
I have it actually on the wall out there. There's a whole list on the
Gray's syrup and some beach plum jelly we're now selling as well.
Right,
From
yeah.
a local farmer.
Yeah, here in town. I love that idea. I'm a huge fan of local, and so is Allison. Mm-hmm. And so as much as possible, she's doing local.
Yeah, and we also changed our our food distributor to a small business, local, based out of Pittsfield, because our big one wasn't working for us.
Right, but again, being able to support local makes everybody so happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They can't get their trucks out here.
Right, local and small business.
Right, exactly.
That's our key.
Yeah, and it is interesting, all of just the way it has worked. And again, it's just, the whole thing is, to me, such a miracle. Again, when I came here, everybody was, well, you're not Elmer, you're not anybody who was here before. But then I was able to make something that people enjoyed. And that's what I think is happening now too, which makes me so excited.
But it's really cool that it's become more about the institution and less about the people running it, because that way it becomes more ingrained in the community and people just look at it like, this is the space, this is where we do the things. Which is wicked awesome. And then you get to play around as much as you want to.
Right. It is fun.
Well, thank you for having us here. And again, the silver lining in every dark cloud.
Oh,
it was
so
a
many
very
pancakes.
pancakes, a very dark cloud of Katrina.
And pine buns.
We've got this
these
great
are
community
awesome.
space in Ashfield now because of all that. So
Yeah.
thanks to both of you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you. And I didn't cry. I didn't cry once.
See, you promised that you were going to make me cry.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. You guys.
It's not too late for the levee to break.
I know, but you guys made me laugh.
Oh, too soon?
20 years.
Sometimes never is too soon.
Thanks, Monty.
The Wicked Good Cafe in Elmer's building in Ashfield is open Friday through Monday from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll mention that one of the improvements to the building was making at least the first floor ADA compliant, which is great.
And check out elmerscommunity.org to find out what that committee is doing in that space, as they have classes and gatherings and more that they host there. Thanks again to Nan Parati and Alison Nottingham for talking with us and feeding us as well.
Now we'll bring in clarinet for Live Music Friday and hear music from composer, band leader, and more, Kenan Osme.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. It's Live Music Friday, and joining us today is an artist who is playing at Antenna Cloud Farm in Gil tomorrow, Kenan Osme.
Originally from Damascus, Syria, clarinetist, composer, and improviser Kenan Osme has gained international recognition for his distinctive voice and genre-bending artistry, appearing with countless artists and groups including the New York Philharmonic, the Syrian Symphony Orchestra, and the Yo-Yo Ma-founded Rhiannon Giddens-led Silk Road Ensemble. And he has played in venues from the Opera Bastille in Paris, the UN General Assembly, and Carnegie Hall, and soon on a small hilltop in Gil.
Formed in 2006 in New York City, Kenan Osme and City Band are celebrating 18 years of friendship with the recent release of their album, Live in Berlin, comprised of Kenan on clarinet, guitarist, and Antenna Cloud Farm alum Kyle Santa, percussionist John Hatfield, and Josh Myers on double bass. The quartet has gained worldwide acclaim for their virtuosic and high-energy performances.
We are also joined by one of the founders of Antenna Cloud Farm, Michi Wianko, who's also a member of Silk Road Ensemble.
Who isn't a member of Silk Road Ensemble?
The two of us.
We're not. Yeah, but your wife is, Kenan, as well, so, right?
That's right.
An ongoing, growing family.
Yeah, we're just really lucky to know people who are like the highest caliber of musicians who exist in the world, and many of whom happen to come here to Western Mass. So we're actually going to we're going to play a song from the band as part of Live Music Friday. We're going to hybridize into live and pre-recorded Music Friday. But let's start out with an actual live Music Friday song. On the clarinet is Kenan Osme. so beautiful.
Thank you.
Kenan Azmeh, who is playing at Antenna Cloud Farm in Gill tomorrow, Saturday, August 30th. This Live Music Friday on the Fabulous 413.
One thing I think that is always really lovely about hearing live woodwinds is you get to hear the breath, and I find that a really important part of music that often gets overlooked. When you record it, it gets glossed over and it gets overcompressed, and you don't hear that, you just hear the melody. But there's something really like primal and visceral about hearing the music with the breath combined with it that I think is absolutely fantastic.
Also the percussive aspect of being able to hear the buttons being pushed. If you call them buttons on a clarinet, I don't know.
They are, yeah. No, absolutely. I think actually the first point you made about hearing the breath, I think this has been an ongoing debate, especially across the different genres where the clarinet is used. In a very strict classical tradition, no, we're not supposed to hear the breath. For me, growing up, it's a wind instrument, so might as well hear the wind.
Yeah.
And I love that, especially that very fine moment when air becomes sound.
Yeah.
When air becomes music, when the reed vibrates to a certain degree, that it produces the sound we call music later on. And I love playing on that little edge where air becomes sound. It's an aspect of technological progress. So hearing the clicks,
yeah,
why not? Also,
I know it gives it life, and breath is life. So
Absolutely.
to hear the breath breathing life into an instrument and creating music is just, I think it's phenomenal. But tell us about your clarinet. It's all matte black. Is it?
It's
special
just
type of clarinet?
No, it's not. It's a Selmer Privilege. That's the name of the model. It's a French-made instrument. I just like the fact that it's all black.
Yeah.
It's less,
me too.
less
look
shining.
At how I'm dressed.
Less lens flare when you're playing live and there's a bunch of lights for people.
Yeah, right.
I like the dark tone of the clarinet sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this look goes better with the sound that I would like to make with the instrument.
We're speaking with Kenan Azmeh, who's playing at Antenna Cloud Farm in Gill tomorrow, Saturday, August 30th. Talk about the place that clarinet has in your home of Syria.
It's a great question. Actually, the clarinet doesn't have a great presence when it comes to classical music from the Arab world. The clarinet was invented somewhere between, actually an exchange between Germany and France and Russia. And it developed and it traveled the world. Obviously, you find music, clarinet in jazz, in music of Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkey. But for some reason, it didn't travel south of Turkey. So there's no clarinet in the traditional ensemble playing Arabic music. I grew up in Damascus learning the Western classical music works, Beethoven, Brahms, and Bach. That was my upbringing. But also I grew up in a household that was very curious by nature, so I was introduced to the Western classical music through the instrument. But I was hearing all the music that Syria had, which is a mixture of Arabic music, Armenian music, Kurdish music, ancient Syriac music. So that, I think, had some impact on the music that I was trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
And now the music I make, I think, is a reflection of all things I like, between jazz to Arabic music to classical music works. But the music of Syria, you cannot name one thing as the music of Syria.
Uh-huh.
Syria is like any other nation. There's so many different categories and different traditions that coexist, and they continue to do so.
Are there traditional reeded instruments in Syria, though?
Yes, there's the zorna, for example, which is a reed not similar to the mouthpiece of the clarinet. It's just a reed, basically. And it can be very, very loud. We have something called the mijwiz, which is a double-reeded instrument. It's two tubes, and they're slightly out of tune, which makes it sound much louder than it is.
Uh-huh.
And it's a very wonderful sound. And a traditional ensemble will have that just with a big drum, and that's enough to get the whole village moving and shaking. It's kind of amazing.
We're speaking with Kenan Azmeh, who's playing here for Live Music Friday on the Fabulous 413, but also at Antenna Cloud Farm in Gill tomorrow, Saturday, August 30th. You were mentioning, Kenan, that you have been back to Syria recently, but as politics are here, is very fraught, and politics globally is fraught, and politics in Syria has been fraught.
For years.
Yeah, you were persona non grata in Syria for a period of time. Can you talk a little bit about being blacklisted in Syria?
The Syrian uprising, those of you who don't know the exact history, we had the same last name for a president for the last 50-something years, right? So I grew up knowing just one name for a president. 2011, people went to the streets demanding change, and the government met the protester by just shooting at them. And I try to stay true to myself and to talk openly about things, politics included. So I stopped going to Syria to perform, obviously, because every single theater will have the big picture of the dictator right behind you. So I didn't want to be part of that. But then I was advised directly and also indirectly not to go. So I didn't go to Syria between 2012 to 2018. 2018, I think my name just disappeared from the list. I think also the Syrian government had more things to worry about rather than just somebody playing the clarinet. And also they didn't read much English, and lots of the interviews that I gave critiquing and criticizing the government were in English. And I guess they didn't pay attention to that. So I managed to go back, but I continue not wanting to play in Damascus under these circumstances. The Syrian regime fell. The dictator fled the country in December 2024. And now the Syrians are at this turning point in their life as a country. We have to decide what kind of country we want to have. And now it's incredibly exciting to be part of that. I'm not saying it's just time to celebrate. Yes, the dictator is gone, but now let's see what kind of country can we build together. And of course, it has not been easy. I mean, I'm sad to say that there have been some massacres also, in a post-Assad Syria. So now it's a very, very challenging time. Had this interview been maybe 6 months ago, I would have been more like, hey, let's celebrate. Now I think the time to celebrate is gone, and now it's time for real work. For artists, for political players, for everybody who wants to see this country grow and prosper.
I'm taking some hope from the lessons of you and Syria for what we may experience in this country. And that is Kenan Asme, who is from Damascus, Syria originally, but now lives in New York City, and who has a new live album out live in Berlin with his city band, who will be part of the performance at Antenna Cloud Farm in Gill tomorrow.
Michi, what's it like playing with Kenan in Silk Road Ensemble?
It's always inspiring. Seeing how he so incredibly integrates so much soulfulness and humanity into his music, yet he's got these crazy chops. When he gets going, you'll just never hear anybody else do what he does. But it's coming always from such a place of humanity and personal experience, and it's really just a reflection of what an amazing, beautiful human being he is. So I've always taken a lot of inspiration, whether we're playing together or not, or whether I'm listening to a recording or I'm in the audience watching him, do something. I would say that he's a model artist for, modern times, somebody who can improvise, who can play something through composed, an amazing collaborator, and just has that holistic approach, to what music means in the world and what music can do in the world. That's my spiel.
Thank you, Michi. I mean, I feel the same when I talk about Michi and Michi's work. We have known each other for many years, and in actually different scenarios of collaboration. We've been sharing, music stands and playing together in the ensemble. But also Michi wrote a gorgeous, gorgeous piece for clarinet and string quartet, the Aizuri string quartet, which we premiered the piece, I think, maybe 7 years ago. Every time I play this piece, I have to write her right after how much I get moved by playing the piece. She's one of the most incredible composers I know. And, the way you describe me is the way I describe you too. And I think that's why we're friends. It's people who think of music outside of just it's our job to be musicians. No, music is something that we love to do. And we are delusional optimists too by thinking that we can change the world with this little piece of wood and metal.
If a government that's run by a dictator is afraid of a man with a clarinet, I think that you may be correct.
I mean, it's been proven correct time and time again.
The thing is, it has to do with the aspect of freedom making. When you play music or when you write a composition, it's a total act of freedom. You defy everything. This is what I think and this is what I want to share with the world. It's a very empowering act to play a musical instrument. And that's why I think now, looking at my son, I want him to play music not because I'm a musician, because I think it's empowering to do anything when it comes to the arts. That's why we go to the arts. That's why we love playing for people. That's why we love going to concerts. It's a celebration of freedom to go and hear what an individual has inside his heart and brain and to share it with the world. It's an incredibly powerful act of being human. And I think, especially in a time of AI, just to go to see a human struggle with their instrument just because they want to express something, I think is going to become even more and more meaningful.
Also, there's a reason why governments come for the artists first.
Right.
Right.
But when we can hear your breath in the instrument, we know that it's real human breath. Well, you're going to play a little bit of something from this new live album, Live in Berlin, from Kenan Azmeh and City Band, who will be performing at Antenna Cloud Farm in Gill. And then we're going to transition into the recording from this album. What is it that you're going to start out playing, and what will we hear on the album?
I think what I'm going to start playing, and you're going to hear from the album, is maybe my signature piece. The title of it is Wedding. Wedding is a piece that is inspired by the mood and the spirit one can find in a Syrian village wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you can picture this public square. Everybody shows up. The musicians also show up, and they play whatever they like to play. And the piece can be loud and fast and unpredictable. You're gonna hear the full version with the band. I'm just gonna give you a little teaser. And I think this one of the pieces that changed meaning for me over the years. I wrote this in 2007, but now every time I play it, I think of all the people who managed to fall in love in times of atrocities. I've seen it with my own people, how people, in spite of bullets, barrel bombs, dictators, and today, given the Gaza context, like genocides, occupations, you name it, and also in this country, that people just continue to have the strength and the resilience to fall in love. So it's a dedication from me and the band to all of them. And I think also it's a reminder for all of us that falling in love might be one of the very few human rights that no authority can take away.
Incredible. Let's hear it. Wedding from Kenan Azmeh live in the fabulous 413, soon to be from the live recording, Live in Berlin. Keenan Osme and Michi Bianco, thank you both so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us. Thank you. Thank you, Michi, for the invitation of being part of your community.
It's
you
such
so
an
much
honor. For making the time.
Keenan Osme and City Band play at Antenna Cloud Farm in Gill tomorrow night starting at 6 p.m. Tickets available online or at the door.
Next week on the Fabulous 413, we'll explore a new exhibit looking at all the films that were shot in the 413 at Memorial Hall Museum.
And wish Mike's Maze a happy 25th birthday with the team that started the event and the team that's preparing to open the 26th Maze next weekend.
We'll hear about the sounds thrashing through city space for the second Queercore Festival.
And saute our way through a cookbook with 413 ties but South Asian flavor.
Plus, we'll visit a farm with ties to academia at Book and Plow in Amherst.
And so much more. I'm Khalees Smith.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
Talk to you next week on the Fabulous 413.